So that has participated in this rise in costs of everything. You moved into beverage manufacturing. You're dealing with that as well. Just tell us a little bit about your manufacturing portfolio and sort of what you're contending with in that area. So Hamish, just tell us briefly about Natural Sugars, which was your first company.
Yeah, Natural Sugars, we started that in 2009. My background was in food ingredients and food commodities, and I suppose before we started, the New Zealand Australian arm of the business I was working for was run out of Australia, and the culture in New Zealand wasn't too flash. And I had the opportunity. I was asked to go into business with a CEO that was working for that business a few years prior, to start in that sugar and oil space. And I thought, well, you don't get these opportunities much, so let's have a crack. And yeah, at the time that we went into business, the sugar market was at 28-year highs, and probably the fundamental picture was for it not to go up any further. But there's never a good time, right? So we bought 2,000 tonne of sugar at the time, and the market carried on going up, and we had some really strong relationships in the trade, which meant that we could sort of undercut the market, and that's sort of how we got established. So we could have been in and out of the market within the first 6 months, but we were lucky enough that the market carried on going up and sort of gave us a good start.
So you're still in that sector, which is quite an interesting one. I'm sure climate change is having an effect on the global market, is it?
Sure is, yeah. I mean, just in the last 3 or 4 years, sugar itself's been in a massive bull market because, prices weren't high enough to sustain countries such as Brazil and India. There just wasn't the return, and then you've obviously had big droughts and floods and that sort of thing over the last few years. So yeah, sugar's sort of been, the fundamental picture of sugar has been pretty weak, which has meant sugar pricing has been in a bull market for 3 years, so it's just sort of coming off now.
Absolutely. So that has participated in this rise in costs of everything. You moved into beverage manufacturing. You're dealing with that as well. Just tell us a little bit about your manufacturing portfolio and sort of what you're contending with in that area.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the first one is minimum or living wage. I mean, the previous government, I think that the market went up over, the minimum wage went up over $5 an hour, and we're competing with global players. So when you look at countries such as China, who are, staff there are paid, $300 a month, versus our staff, which can be paid up to that. Not in US dollars, but in New Zealand dollars, $200 a day. It's pretty hard to compete globally. So, and then we're at the end of the world. So logistically, it's pretty tough as well. But that also gives us a competitive advantage, because I suppose New Zealand's thought of pretty highly from overseas, really. And
you have found economies of scale by adding a vast array of products into your distribution lines.
Yeah, I suppose that's been our model, really. We started off in food ingredients. We then got into co-manufacturing for a number of startups in New Zealand, but a number of beverage players that have been in the market for a long time, and then some of the blue chip. But when we went into our own brands back in 2018, 2019, when we started a liquor business called Premium Liquor, we started with one brand called Sundown Gin, and we put 7 reps on the road, and we were hoping that that one brand was going to be enough. And what we realised really quickly is that we needed a number of brands to reduce our cost to serve and also give us diversification. So we brought in a number of brands. One of the I suppose best brands we brought in was a brand called Gunpowder Gin, or Drumshambo, which is the world's I think it got world's best gin last year, which was good. But we also brought in a number of products that brands that didn't go so well. So so you're left clearing them. But the whole aim of the game by starting Premium Liquor was to put throughput through pure bottling, and to do something different to what's in the market, to something different to what's the big players are doing. So that our liquor business or our beverage business now is across sort of cocktails, sort of high-end spirits, through to tonics and RTDs.
I was just going to say you moved into adjacent areas, mixes. So the Tonic brand, how did that come about?
We saw the growth in tonics globally. We saw what Fever Tree had sort of done to Schweppes, and then we thought, they're quite classic. It's quite classic branding. I think Fever Tree did well with putting a bit of a modern slant, I suppose, on Schweppes. But what we wanted to do was turn that sort of category upside down. So Alchemy and Tonic is sort of all about magic. So it's got a circus. It's like a circus theme, and what does a circus mean? It's longing for fun. It's and getting out of the mundane way of life, really. So so the Alchemy and Tonic brand is about fun. It's about escapism, so people can have a drink at the end of the day, with or without alcohol.
And just finally, Hamish, you really have quite bullish export ambitions. Tell us about, in 5 years' time, what would you like to be doing exports-wise?
Great question. Look, we're just trying to push as hard as we can into export. What we've realised in the last 3 or 4 years is that export takes a lot of money and time. So the first things first is it's getting our target markets, which Australia is obviously one, the US is another, and then parts of Europe and Asia are others. So, but it's about putting people on the ground in those markets. I just don't think you can really do a great job without putting people in those markets. We've done a little bits and pieces into Japan, but Australia at the moment is our focus to really get some traction in that market. And I think once we get traction, $40, $50 million shouldn't be too big a task, but it's getting over those hurdles for a start.
That's right. You'll be on a plane a lot, no doubt.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming in.
No problem.
To support our award-winning independent journalism, subscribe to nbr.co.nz.